So I have a question for you to start things off today. And, be honest.
I will do my best.
How much do you love a good comeback story?
Oh, a comeback story.
Yeah, you know the type. Someone hits rock bottom, loses everything. Maybe they make a massive mistake, but then they claw their way back.
Right.
They learn from it. They get stronger. They find, redemption.
I mean, it is the fundamental arc of almost every movie, biography, and inspirational post you see online, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
We are entirely obsessed with the idea that suffering has to have a purpose, that if you just endure the pain, you get this prize of wisdom at the end.
Right, the whole what doesn't kill you makes you stronger thing.
Right.
It's basically our cultural motto at this point.
It really is.
But we've got a stack of papers here today for this deep dive that, well, it kind of takes a sledgehammer to that whole idea.
It definitely does.
We're looking at an essay by the writer and philosopher Pedro Malha. It's called Continuance. And I have to admit, reading this made me really uncomfortable.
It's an unsettling read.
Yeah, it felt like he was taking away the one thing we use to make sense of tragedy, which is the happy ending, or at least the meaningful ending.
Well, Malta isn't interested in the Hollywood version of survival. He's identifying a very specific and honestly very common human condition that sits right in our blind spot.
Okay, so what is the mission for us today then?
The goal here is to really understand what happens when a life doesn't get better, but also stops collapsing.
Right.
We're unpacking the difference between healing and simply, well, continuing, and why structural design, and not personal virtue, is often what decides which one of those you get.
So it's not healing, and it's not giving up. It's just continuance.
Exactly. And to understand it, we have to be willing to look at the possibility that sometimes suffering doesn't teach you anything at all.
Yeah, that's tough to hear.
Sometimes you don't come back stronger, you just continue.
It sounds incredibly bleak initially, doesn't it?
It can, yeah.
Continuance. It almost sounds like bureaucratic speak for hanging in there.
It does sound dry, but the distinction he makes is fascinating. Malha distinguishes continuance from healing very clearly.
Okay, lay that out for us.
When we say someone healed, we usually imply some kind of repair, a return to how things were, or some new coherence.
Like the bone knitted back together stronger.
Right, exactly. But continuance is much flatter than that. It's harder to honor because it offers no lesson and it rewards no endurance.
So how does he define it?
He defines it as a state where the damage remains. The loss isn't transformed, the mistake isn't redeemed, but, and this is the key part, the future stops organizing itself around that trauma.
Okay, wait, stop right there. The future stops organizing itself around that trauma.
Yeah.
That is a really dense phrase. What does that actually look like in real life?
Let's think about it like this. Say you go through a terrible breakup, or maybe a highly public failure at work.
All right.
For months, every single decision you make is a reaction to that event. You avoid certain streets, you change how you talk to people, you wake up thinking about it.
Sure, the trauma is basically the organizing principle of your entire day.
Exactly. You are living inside the event. Continuance is the moment that simply stops.
So you don't necessarily get over it.
Not necessarily, no. You didn't process the emotions perfectly. You didn't have some massive breakthrough in therapy where you realized it was all meant to be.
You just went to the store.
You bought groceries without thinking about it. The event occurred, it mattered, and then, as Malha puts it, it stopped arriving.
It stopped arriving, so the storm just passed. You didn't rebuild the house better than before. The wind just died down.
Precisely. And this creates a really strange internal state for the survivor. Because Malha points out that in this condition, you don't get what he calls compensating clarity.
Compensating clarity.
Right. You don't get the wisdom prize for suffering. You might still carry intense confusion. You might still have massive regret.
You're just an altered person.
You're altered, carrying the damage, but the world has stopped hitting you. So you keep walking. The only difference is the damage stopped escalating.
I think that's the part that really bothers me. We deeply want that compensating clarity. We want to believe that if I went through hell, I at least got a t-shirt that says, I learned a valuable lesson.
Of course we do.
And Malha's saying, maybe you didn't.
He's saying that expecting wisdom as a reward for suffering is a luxury. And more importantly, he's arguing that the difference between someone who gets to continue and someone whose life narrows and is defined by a mistake forever, it isn't about character.
So it's not about who learned the lesson better.
No. It is about structural design.
And this is where the essay really pivots, I think, from philosophy to something much more mechanical.
It does.
And honestly, this is where it got scary for me. because he starts talking about the mechanism of repetition, words like summoning.
Right, this is the core engine of the whole essay. The central question he's asking is this: why does one person make an error, say a criminal offense or a massive financial screw-up, and 5 years later they're totally fine?
Yeah.
While another person makes the exact same error, and it defines them until the day they die.
And the standard answer society gives is personal responsibility.
Oh, completely.
We say person A worked hard and moved on, and person B just didn't want it enough.
And Mala says that is nonsense. He argues that lives are not broken by the initial impact, not the arrest, not the firing, not the accident.
Then what breaks them?
They are broken, by the way, and impact continues to be summoned.
Summoned, like calling a spirit back into the room.
We're pulling a file from a cabinet. He introduces this concept of the error with duration.
The error with duration.
Yes. If you make a mistake, and society decides that mistake is relevant to your identity every single day, you never get to experience continuance. You are stuck in the event. You are constantly required to account for it.
Okay, let's make this concrete, because summoning sounds a bit abstract. Give me a real-world example of how this structural design actually works.
The most brutal and obvious example is the legal system. This is all about files and records.
Okay.
Let's imagine two people. We'll call them Sam and Alex. They both get arrested for the exact same minor theft at age 18.
Got it.
Now, in Sam's jurisdiction, the laws are written so that after 5 years, if there are no new offenses, the record is automatically sealed. It literally vanishes from the public eye.
So Sam applies for a job at age 24. The background check comes back completely clean, and he just gets the job.
Exactly. The system disengaged, the file closed automatically, Sam is allowed to experience continuance. The theft is just a thing that happened in the past.
And what about Alex?
Well, in Alex's jurisdiction, that specific record is permanent. It never seals. It is designed never to close.
Wow.
So every time Alex applies for an apartment, it's there. Every single job application, it's there.
So Alex is just constantly being dragged back to being 18 years old.
Alex is being summoned back to the mistake. The error has duration. It's not that Alex is a worse person or hasn't psychologically healed or integrated the event.
It's that the system refuses to let the event stop arriving.
Precisely. The future is forced to organize itself around that one trauma forever. A life continues or constricts based purely on whether a system disengages.
That is terrifying because it's so administrative. It has nothing to do with justice or fairness. It's literally just about how the database was coded.
That is Malha's exact point. It is about design, not justice. Whether your life continues is often about whether a system is designed to forget you or designed to remember you permanently. Some files burn themselves, others are carved in stone.
But it's not just the legal system, though, right? I mean, beyond legal records, we do this to each other socially all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
The file isn't always a government database. Sometimes it's just reputation or gossip.
Social environments are just as mechanical as the courts. Think about a small town, or a really tight-knit office culture, or even a family dynamic.
Well, families are the worst for this.
Right. We all know that person who is the designated screw-up of the family.
The black sheep.
Yes. Maybe they messed up in their early 20s, but now they're 40 years old. Yet every single Thanksgiving, the stories that get told are about that mess-up.
The family just refuses to update the file.
They continually reactivate the old identity.
So the person literally cannot change because the people around them won't let them be anyone else.
Exactly. Malha calls this the calcification of identity. Your identity forms and hardens around what happened only because it is repeatedly invoked by others.
Wow.
In some contexts, people are allowed to become ordinary again. The stories stop circulating, attention moves elsewhere,
You just get to be boring.
which is a massive privilege. In other contexts, you are forced to perform your worst moment over and over again.
It makes me think about public shaming in a totally new way. It's not just about people being mean on the internet. It's about denying someone the right to continuance.
Denying them the right to have the past stay in the past.
Denying them the right to have the event stop happening. And here is where I want to bring up something we always hear, the whole time heals all wounds thing.
Right, the ultimate cliche.
Because it seems like Mala is saying that is completely false.
He argues it is completely false. Time itself does not heal or soften this dynamic at all. Time merely exposes it.
Wait, really? Because that's the one thing everyone relies on. Just give it time.
But look back at Alex in our legal record example. Time didn't help Alex one bit. 10 years passed, and the record was still perfectly intact.
It just sat there waiting.
Time just shows us who was allowed to move on and who wasn't. Mala discusses these people who, quote, wait for improvement that never comes.
They don't get worse
But
if they don't get better.
Right. They aren't deteriorating, they aren't out committing new crimes, but they aren't expanding either. They are just stuck in a loop because the mechanism of repetition won't shut off.
This brings up a really uncomfortable realization about virtue.
It does.
We love to think that survival is a reward for being good, for having grit.
The myth of virtue.
Yeah. But if Mala is right, survival is mostly about whether you have a shield that stops the repetition. It creates this huge sense of unease.
That unease is intentional. It completely disrupts our idea of meritocracy. Malha argues that whether damage propagates, meaning it spreads and destroys your life, or whether it settles, is usually a matter of boundary, not virtue.
Boundary. He's not talking about, like, emotional boundaries in therapy here, is he?
No, not at all. He means literal, structural, invisible shields. And the most obvious one is money. Money is a boundary.
That makes total sense. If I crash my car and I have money in the bank, it's just an annoying Tuesday.
Exactly.
But if I crash my car and I'm totally broke, I can't get to work, so I lose my job, and then I can't pay rent, so I lose my apartment.
That is exactly what Mala calls a chain reaction. Some losses arrive completely alone. They hurt, sure, but they are isolated.
Right.
Other losses initiate a pattern where one absence leads directly to another. The defining factor is money or status or institutional insulation.
Money puts a boundary around the event, so it doesn't become a permanent condition. It stops the bleeding before it turns into an infection.
Right. Status does the exact same thing. If you are a highly powerful person, you often have an entire team dedicated to ensuring your mistakes don't define you.
You have PR people to spin the narrative, lawyers to seal the records.
You literally have a machine designed to manufacture your continuance.
Man, there is a phrase in the text that actually gave me chills when I read it. He talks about the refusal of removal to end.
The refusal of removal to end. Yes.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but can you unpack that for us?
It means the system refuses to hit the delete button. It refuses to remove the mark against you so the punishment can end. And conversely, for those who do survive, it's often because that removal did happen.
Okay.
And sometimes, and this is the truly humbling part, it happens simply because of neglect.
Neglect, you mean like nobody noticed you messed up?
Yes, sometimes you survive simply because the system was too busy to crush you that day. Or just bad timing for someone else meant good timing for you.
Wow.
The day of the storm was focused elsewhere. It wasn't that you were smart or brave or virtuous. The world just happened to look away, and in that moment of neglect, you were able to stand back up.
That really strips the ego out of your own success, doesn't it? It makes you feel incredibly small.
It should. And it leads directly to what Maha calls moral awkwardness.
Let's talk about that internal state. Because if I accept all this, if I accept that my big comeback was actually just the world decided to stop hitting me, how does that feel?
It doesn't feel like a victory lap, I can tell you that.
No, it doesn't.
Mala describes the experience of the survivor not as relief, but as disorientation.
Disorientation, not relief.
Right, because relief implies you escaped, that you outsmarted or outran the monster, but here you realize the monster just lost interest in you.
You're just standing there realizing your life could have completely closed in.
The walls could have crushed you, and they didn't. Not because of your incredible skill, but because the world stopped pressing.
It's an unearned reprieve.
That's his exact phrase, an unearned reprieve.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very difficult to feel grateful for an unearned reprieve when you look around and see others who weren't spared the repetition.
It creates a kind of survivor's guilt, but it's deeply structural.
Exactly. You know that the file on your desk fell into the trash can by pure luck, and the file on the next desk went straight to the prosecutor.
And the really scary part here is that knowing this doesn't actually save you.
No, it doesn't.
Usually on this show, we say knowledge is power. If you understand the system, you can beat the system.
Malha is very clear on this. Awareness fails. You can understand the system perfectly. You can be a sociologist who wrote a book on how poverty traps people, and you can still be destroyed by it.
The machine doesn't care.
The structure, he says, rarely announces itself and never justifies its choices. People who understand it are destroyed by it, and people ignorant of it are spared. It will still grind you up if you get caught in the gears.
God, that is heavy. It really challenges the way we look at people who are struggling.
It demands a complete shift in perspective.
Because if I look at someone who is, say, unhoused or dealing with addiction or just can't seem to hold down a job, my instinct, even if I'm trying to be deeply empathetic, is think, what choices did you make?
And Malha demands we ask a completely different question. He wants us to ask, What structures are keeping this moment alive for them?
What is continuously reactivating the damage?
Yes. Is it a permanent legal record? A lack of money to act as a boundary? A community narrative that refuses to let them change?
And conversely, when we look in the mirror at our own lives,
When we look in the mirror, we have to be brutally honest about our own healing. A life that carries on is not necessarily a life that somehow magically avoided damage.
it's just a life where the damage did not become total.
Did not become total because you had the boundaries, you had the shock absorbers, or you just had the luck of the draw and the file closed.
So if we accept this, if we accept that continuance is largely a matter of structural luck or boundary privilege, does that mean we are just helpless?
I don't think he's saying that.
Because I don't want this to just be a life is unfair, deal with it kind of takeaway.
Malha refuses fairness, absolutely. But he also refuses cynicism. He just insists on accuracy.
Okay, so what is the actionable part of this accuracy?
It requires us to stop looking at massive systems we can't control and start looking at the systems we actually are a part of.
Which are what?
Our own social circles, our families, our workplaces. Oh, I see.
We are the system for the people around us. We are the ones who decide whether to keep summoning someone's past errors.
We hold the files.
We do hold the files. When you interact with a friend who messed up years ago, you have a choice in that moment. You can be the agent of repetition.
By bringing it up, making jokes, keeping their identity calcified around that mistake.
Exactly. Or you can be the agent of continuance. You can actively let the file close. You can allow them to be ordinary again.
We can literally be the boundary that stops the chain reaction for someone else.
We can. We can't dismantle the federal legal system by ourselves today. But at the family dinner table, we can decide that a debt has been paid. We can grant that unearned reprieve to each other.
That is incredibly powerful. It shifts the responsibility from trying to fix people to just letting them be, allowing them to be unfinished.
Mallah implies that being unfinished is a privilege. To be a work in progress rather than a finalized cautionary tale is the greatest gift a system can give you. It is a lot to process. It really flips the script on how we tell stories about our own lives. We all want the hero's journey, but maybe we should just settle for the survivor's quiet walk.
The quiet walk where the wind just stops blowing, sometimes that really is enough.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to chew on. And I'll warn you, it might bug you a little bit.
It usually does.
I want you to think it about the hardest thing you ever got over. A horrible breakup, a firing, a massive failure. You probably tell yourself a story about how you fought your way back.
And you probably did fight.
You did. But here is the challenge, based on what we read today. Ask yourself, did you truly heal? Did you reach some state of higher wisdom?
Or did the world simply grant you permission to stop answering for the mistake?
Did the file just close? And if you realize that it was luck or privilege or just random neglect to let you move on, how does that change the way you look at the person standing right next to you who is still trapped in the loop of repetition?
That is exactly the question that keeps me up at night.
It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.